If you've just joined us, you're watching Newslink on DSTV channel 403. Now, the National Energy Crisis Committee has identified underinvestment in maintenance and design flaws at power stations as the reason why Eskom is broken. It released its 6-month progress update on the implementation of the Energy Action Plan. It blames the outages on a high number of breakdowns across the struggling power utilities generation fleet. The ANC will meet stakeholders in the sector to look at concrete solutions this afternoon. Let's discuss this now with energy analyst Hilton Trollip. Mr. Trollip, good morning and thank you very much for your time. Before we get to that progress report, can you just share your views on today's energy dialogue that the ANC will be hosting a bit later on? Because some say South Africans are now completely over-workshopped. They want action, no more dialogues, because experts from different sectors have stated what needs to be done, and that's all that needs to happen now, just action.
Good morning, Mfunda, and to your viewers. I think that not the ANC should have dialogues, etc. Very good. But I think that a function of the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy should be to conduct a reasoned, open dialogues, public dialogues, where instead of people shouting at each other through the newspapers, and people having 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and it's nice to talk on these programs, to explain very complex problems, or to have just one person talking for an hour, where we could have a proper reasoned debate between people that have taken positions, to have time to explain to each other, to discuss with each other, and to explain to the public what's going on. That's missing in our entire dialogue. The dialogue, government is meant to balance the different interests in a society. That's what politics is. And there are many interests, and obviously each industry will, the coal industry will support coal, and the renewables, etc., and each one is strident in what it says to the public. And I think what we need is those people can make their points, but then we need what I would call disinterested experts, people that don't have a stake in the system, don't have investments, and you find these people, for example, at the CSIR, the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, and at the universities and at research organizations. And I really support the idea that we should have an event or a few events where such people, and in fact, I spoke to the Energy Minister, and I suggested exactly this, saying that instead of this nasty sniping in the papers, etc., that we calm down and we have a rational debate. That won't take long. People are ready with their presentations, with their views, etc. In a week, we could convene such a meeting and we could give people the time to explain their positions and to reach some kind of middle ground in what is turning to be an incredibly destructive public spat in government, between interests, etc., etc. And I also have one other worry. It's becoming very identity-based. I don't want to even use the word race, but I'll call it identity-based. So you have people lining up to support various things, whether it's renewable energy or coal or baseload or, this minister or that minister, not based on rational analyses and facts relating to the electricity system, but more to their adherence to groups which are becoming increasingly polarized. And I think it's government's job, not the ANC's job. The ANC's a political party, it has its positions. But government needs a position, and that position can't just change every time the ANC has the conference, because the ANC is not a scientific organization. So government must play that role. I feel very strongly about that.
It has been quite disturbing to monitor these developments, where we're seeing that it has now become more about individuals. There seem to be some sort of political battles where they're saying one is trying to show off his power to the other when it comes to these particular ministers, these two. So it has gotten somewhat out of hand, where it's not necessarily many people now focus on dealing with the problem at hand. So you believe, nevertheless, that dialogue would be beneficial. We're still not over-workshopped. You need to have some of these disinterested parties, as you say, coming to the table and sharing their views. But some could argue that there can never be a disinterested party. Yes, when we speak of the professors, there may be no monetary benefit, but they must certainly of a particular persuasion. They could be pro-renewables, pro-coal. So what would happen in that dialogue? Will it not be what we're seeing in the media space, where those that are fundamentalists of fossil fuels will continue with the fossil fuels and those that are pro-renewables will continue with their renewables?
You make a very good point, Mfundo. So I recently wrote an op-ed where I try to explain very quickly in 1,000 words that an expert is not science. Science is a process. Science is a set of institutions where you have quality control of the discussion, where discussions are held in a certain, according to rules and according to established methods over the centuries. And I compared, for example, former President Mbeki being anti-science in his statements about the use of nevarapine for preventing transmission of HIV/AIDS. And I believe we're having a very similar thing now, where we're getting ministers taking scientific positions instead of, and I know I'm not answering your question, it's a very difficult question. What is science? But a science isn't one scientist. A science is scientists and experts debating and clarifying the issues. That is what science is. And yes, then the politicians can take decisions based on those discussions, not politicians taking scientific positions. It's complicated, but the whole of the technological world relies on the proper roles people play in society. So scientists play their scientific roles. The CEO at ESCOM must run the executive team. The board must pick the CEO. The shareholder, which is government, must pick the board. But what's happening is everybody's just mucking in a big, unseemly squabble. And we need some order in this. And the order needs to come from the leadership.